The seed of the mind is ahankar. The shoot is the intelligence. The stem is the mind itself. And the leaves and branches are rag and dvesh, likes and dislikes. That when the mind arrogates and says, I, me and mine, the mind is termed as ego. When the mind discriminates and says this is right and that is wrong, the mind is termed as intelligence. When the mind feels that I like and do not like, it is termed as manas. When the mind actually remembers, it is known as chit or memory. So, when it desires and rejects, it is sankalpa and vikalpa. So, this is the nature of the mind. And in actual fact, this mind is the cause of all distress. Because what happens, I have explained to you in my course, that when you die, you leave this body, the spirit soul leaves the body, but spirit soul takes with it its companion, and that companion is the mind. Just like Sinbad the sailor carries the old man of the sea on his back. When you leave your body, you carry with you your subtle body or your mind. And it's your subtle body or your mind which is actually a bundle of unfulfilled desires and your karmas which forces you to accept a new body. It is your mind and mind only that makes you accept another body. That is the cause of rebirth. So in fact, one who has learned to tackle the mind is one who has learned to be free of the cycle of birth and death. So he asks her that how can I get rid of this mind? How can I solve the problems that I am suffering from simply by controlling the mind? So Kumbha Muni explains to him that if you want to control the mind, you should understand that you have to use a similar substance to control a similar substance. Just like if you have mud on your foot, you can take sand, and by putting sand on the mud, you can rub the mud off, because the sand will absorb the water and will allow you to make your foot clean. If you have diarrhea from drinking milk, if you take buttermilk or if you take dahi, your diarrhea can be solved. If you have a thorn in one foot, you can take another thorn to take out the first thorn. So also he explains that if you want to conquer the mind, you have to use the spiritual mind. That if you want to control your material mind, you have to use your spiritual mind. If you want to control your ashuddh manas, you should use your shuddh manas. The impure mind is controlled by the pure mind. The material mind is cured or tackled only by the pure mind. Material mind by the spiritual mind. The impure mind by the pure mind. But first of all, you should know what is the difference between the spiritual mind and the material mind. The spiritual mind is attracted to God. This is the first characteristic of the spiritual mind. This is the first and most important characteristic of the spiritual mind. It is attracted to God. This is the nature of the spiritual mind, is to be attracted to God. Therefore, it seeks out God and godliness in all things. It seeks solitude or the association of devotees. It seeks the association of Mahatmas and Sants. It seeks solace in the scripture. It is entertained by Kirtan. It is pacified by the chanting of the holy name. This is the nature of the pure mind or the spiritual mind. It is a mind which is attracted to the higher. And the impure mind or the material mind, it is attracted to things of the world. It is attracted to material pleasures of the senses that actually take you away from God. It is attracted to video, movie, TV. It is attracted to novels. It is attracted towards all sinful activities. This is the nature of the impure mind. And simply by starving the impure mind and feeding the pure mind, the impure mind can be destroyed. So she explains, Kumbha Muni explains to him that if you want to conquer your mind, simply use your spiritual mind or your Shuddh Manas to control the lower mind by rejecting all activities that make the impure mind strong and instead engage in activities that make the pure mind stronger, and naturally it shall come out as the victor. So this is exactly what Sikhidwaja does. He chants the holy name, he does kirtan, he does meditation, he worships God, and by performing all these activities, eventually in course of time, he tells Kum Muni that now I have controlled my mind, now I am peaceful, now I am happy. So to test whether he has really controlled his mind, Kumbh Muni tells him that I will see you in the evening, and when I see you in the evening, I will decide what further things you should continue doing. Until then, you keep on continuing on the same path that you are. In the evening, when Kumbh Muni comes, he says that my dear King Sikhidwaja, I have received a curse from Durvas Muni. I was travelling, and when I was travelling I met Durvas Muni, and because I happened to insult him, he gave me a curse. And the curse that he has given me is that I shall become at nightfall, every night I shall become a young and lusty woman. At every night I shall become a young and a lusty woman. So Sikhidwaja looks at him and says, well, whatever God does, He does it for the best, so don't worry. If that is what He wills, let it be. In the night you become a lusty woman. You shall still be my spiritual master, you shall still be my guru. And come nightfall, and Kumbh Muni becomes a young, beautiful, seductive woman. So after 3 days, Kumbh Muni, in the form of this young, beautiful, seductive woman, approaches King Sikhidwaja and says that I know that I am your spiritual master, I know that I am Kumbh Muni, but at nightfall what happens? I become a young, beautiful, lusty woman, and I cannot control myself when I see a young, handsome man like you. So my request to you is that why don't we get married? We can perform Gandharva Vivah here. And you please become my husband and keep me happy. Because what to do when I am in this body, these urges have to be fulfilled. So King Sikhidwaja says, alright, whatever you say, I will do, because you are my spiritual master. Whatever instruction you give me, I shall fulfill. So they perform Gandharva Vivah, and he lives with her as his wife. In the daytime he becomes Kumbh Muni. In the night time he becomes this young lusty woman who is his wife. So after some time, this Queen Chudalai, who is actually Kumbh Muni, who has now taken the form of this young lusty woman, she decides to test him even further. So she now comes before him in the form of King Indra. And coming before him in the form of King Indra, she tells him that my dear King Sikhidwaja, we have observed your austerities, and everybody in Indralok is highly enamored of you. All the great celestial maidens in the heavenly planets, they want to enjoy with you. So I have been sent here by special request from Urvashi and Rambha, who want me to bring you back so they can enjoy with you. And please come to heaven, you will have great heavenly delights, and the most beautiful celestial maidens in the 3 worlds will entertain you and enjoy with you. So King Sikhidwaja looks at him and says, thank you so much, but I am content and happy. I am engaging my spiritual practices here. I am following the instruction of my spiritual master, and I am completely content. There is no need to disturb me at all. So the Queen Chudalai, who is the form of Kumbh Muni, who has now taken the form of Indra, she is very happy that her husband has controlled his mind to the extent that although he is living with her in the form of a young lusty woman, he has actually controlled his mind that he is not tempted by somebody outside. So she decides to test him even further. And to test him even further, at nightfall, when she takes the form of a young lusty woman, when King Sikhidwaja is coming to meet her, she gives him the illusion that she is embracing a young, handsome, naked man and enjoying with him. So King Sikhidwaja comes there, he sees this woman he has married embracing a young man, and seeing them over there, he says, please excuse me, and he goes away. So immediately this woman leaves the man and runs after him and says that I am so sorry. I am very sorry for what I have done. But what could I do? When I am imprisoned in this body of mine is not controlled because it has so many desires. And I gave in to the desires of this body. So please forgive me and please accept me as your wife. So King Sukhiraja looks at her and says, that no problem. Just go back and continue doing whatever you are doing. I am happy, I am content, I am peaceful. I am not disturbed, I am not agitated, I am not even thinking about what I saw. Please go, complete whatever you are doing and then come back. No problem. So then Queen Chudalai realizes that now he has actually controlled his mind. Now he has actually fulfilled the goal of life, that is to control the mind. And having controlled the mind and realized God, he is completely blissful and content under all circumstances. So she now reveals to him that what he saw was merely an illusion created by his yogic powers, and so also Kum Muni and Indra were also illusions created by her, and that she is none other than Queen Chudalai, his own wife. And after explaining this to him, she asks him that, what do you want now? Do you want to remain here in the forest or would you like to go back to your kingdom? He says, your instruction is my command. Whether I go to the kingdom or whether I stay in the forest, it's all the same to me. You tell me what you want me to do and that I shall do. So she tells him, come, let's go back to the kingdom. Now you can look after the kingdom. And so they go back and they look after the kingdom and live happily ever after in their lifetimes, and at the end of their life they go back to Godhead. Because the secret of controlling your mind is simply this, that if you want to control your mind, you have to engage in activities of the spiritual mind, and you have to starve the material mind of the activities that will strengthen it. There is no neutral activity, please remember that. If you think that you are performing an activity which is not a spiritual activity, then you can be sure you are strengthening the lower mind. If an activity is not strengthening the higher mind, you have to be sure it is strengthening the lower mind. And the lower mind is so deceitful that it will constantly convince you. It will always convince you that what you are doing is the right thing. Because the mind consists of two components. It consists of the conscious component and the subconscious component. There is a part of the mind that you can see and there is a part of the mind that you do not see. It's like an iceberg. If you see ice floating, 1/10 is above the surface and 9/10 is below the surface. That is the nature of the mind. Just like ice which floats 1/10 above and 9/10 below, the mind is only 1/10 above and 9/10 below. This is the nature of the mind. Once upon a time, there was a great ship that was launched, and that ship was known as the Titanic. It was called the unsinkable ship. Why was it called unsinkable ship? Because it was made of iron. And it was a big steamer. And they thought that nothing could sink that ship. It was called the unsinkable ship. But that ship sank. Why did it sink? It was sunk by an iceberg. When they saw the iceberg, they thought that nothing can happen to this ship. It's such a tiny little iceberg, because they saw only so much of the iceberg. 9/10 of the iceberg was beneath the surface. And when the ship passed, that iceberg ripped open the bottom of that ship, and that ship filled up with water and sank to the bottom of the sea. So also, many a ship has been launched in spiritual life. Many a ship has been launched in spiritual life, and it has been called an unsinkable ship. Many a ship has been launched in spiritual life, and it has been called an unsinkable ship. And such people have reached great exalted positions in spiritual life. But because they have underestimated the mind, what has happened? The subconscious